in on here?
I would
Perry's
never
first moves. No, I don't blame you.
I would never. Look,
it's kind of our whole job.
Well, I was reading a text that said it's kind of depressing that we're talking about the Russell Westbrook thing. And, we've talked before, what would you grade Scott Perry on this offseason? And yeah, and Kyle said I didn't expect all 6 core players to still be here. Yeah, with that being said, for his first move that we heard about outside of the draft to be, yeah, we're trying to trade Malik Monk for Dennis Schroeder, I understood why some fans felt, excuse me, come again? Yeah. I beg your pardon. One more time now?
And now, wait, we're trying to move off Malik Monk so we can sign Russell Westbrook?
Yes.
And to be fair, I don't think that it's that. And by the way, I think it's very fair to question. Like I said, that's kind of our whole job here. The tough scenario is that Scott hasn't done that much. Mm-hmm. And so there's nothing to really evaluate, right? And it's hard to be like, hey, you just inherited this team this offseason. You've done nothing. And so that's a mark on you for that being the case. It's like, obviously, this is all market dependent and everything. Wow. Where did we start with that?
You're talking about the moves that he was or wasn't able to make.
Right. Yeah. And I think, obviously, just very dependent on what else is out there on the market. And I think it's hard to gauge when patience is a scenario that makes sense from the Kings perspective. But on the shopping Malik scenario that seems to have been going on a little bit this offseason, I don't think it's necessarily like, oh, we were trying to get Dennis Schroeder, and so Malik Monk was the first guy we were going to move in order to do that. We're trying to get Russell Westbrook, so in order to get Russ, we're going to move Malik Monk. To me, it seems more like they are just exploring the Malik Monk market. And sure, it would help in some of these scenarios. But hey, like you just talked about with Brett Siegel, maybe it's, if we really want Russell Westbrook, then we're going to create space by going the Devin Carter route, right? I think the Malik Monk thing is a little bit more separate from the other deals than it's kind of being talked about. At least that's just kind of the impression I get. Like, I think that there is an aspect of like, it would be easier for them to have Russell Westbrook on this team if they moved on from Malik Monk, right? That's how that deal could make sense. Right. But I also don't think they are trying to move Malik Monk in order to get Russell Westbrook. I think them shopping Malik is its own individual thing, is all I mean.
And why do you think they are doing that?
I mean, and this is just reading tea leaves more than anything, right? I think the value of that position that Malik plays, this super 6-man, is kind of gone down in recent years. When he reached the free agent market and everyone, myself included, thought that he was going to get outpriced by another team, that never happened. There wasn't more money out there for his archetype, maybe him specifically, but I say his archetype in my mind because you're seeing Cam Thomas a little bit, who I think is a little bit of a lesser player, but Jordan Clarkson was got for like nothing to New York. I think that archetype of player is declining a little, and Scott Perry's coming in and trying to rework this roster. So to me, again, this is mainly just reading between the lines more than anything. I think that's just Scott attempting to rework the roster rather than being like, again, I don't think it's we want Russ, so we're going to get rid of Malik to do that. I think it's more of a, hey, we'd like to have Russ and we're kind of trying to move Malik. So maybe these two make sense.
But that is a perfect lead in and a perfect segue, if you will, to the Jake Fisher news that came out today, because even though it's funny, they're both moves, quote unquote, for Russell Westbrook are disrespectful in different ways. If it's for Malik Monk, I think Malik Monk is better than Russell Westbrook right now. And I think Malik Monk is better than Devin Carter right now. But I think Devin Carter more so represents from a type of player standpoint where the Kings are trying to go. So to me, that's why this Jake Fisher thing, funny enough, as somebody who was not the biggest Devin Carter guy, in a weird way, it actually makes less sense to lose a 23-year-old Devin Carter, even if I'm not that high on him, for a Russell Westbrook, when you could make the argument, hey, if you're trying to shop Malik Monk anyway, it's not as if Malik Monk, nobody will take him. Clearly, nobody has met their asking price for Malik Monk. But whatever that asking price is, let's say they get closer to it and they were to move Malik Monk, and part of that is what they get back from Malik Monk, and in addition to that, adding Westbrook, that would make a little bit more sense to me, because I'm thinking, all right, we're doing all this vet talk. I'd love for Devin Carter to learn and be mentored by Russell Westbrook. Right. That would actually make more sense to me. And I came to that conclusion during the show. So I think a lot of people woke up and saw the Jake Fisher news and thought, oh, this is good. Moving on from Devin Carter makes sense. But me personally, I'm thinking, so now you're getting even older and you're moving on from a guy in Devin Carter, who's only 23. Like I said, I get it. There might not be a lot of room for him, but I personally, if we're choosing between, if you're not going anywhere anyway, and if you're 1 win better, 2 wins better on Fanspo, doing this deal, losing Devin Carter for whatever, a couple second rounders, whatever the case may be, then I would say just hold on to the 23-year-old. And if you really are trying to move Malik Monk, lower the asking price, get Malik Monk, or move off Malik Monk, get Russell Westbrook. I don't know how I got there, Brenden, but that's how I got there on the show.
I think that's kind of fair. I think more than anything, the Westbrook interest is just kind of weird, right? If you just had an open spot, sure, it would make sense. But to the logic that I was kind of outlining a little earlier, like, it does not make sense to me to be like, hey, we want Russ so bad that we're just willing to get rid of Devin Carter. We're willing to get rid of Malik Monk. Like, I would imagine that they're also, again, their own independent moves somewhat, and just trying to be like, well, what value, if we were trying to do this, these are our 2 avenues. So what could we get in these deals, right? You know, rather than like, hey, we're just trying to dump them so we can sign Russ. There's still also a consideration of what can we get in these deals individually as well. And it's probably a little bit easier to get the league out there to meet your asking price on Devin Carter than it is for Malik Monk, because I think, again, as we mentioned, Malik's a better player than anybody that we've talked about so far. And how Scott Perry feels about Devin Carter is sort of TBD. You know, I don't think I've personally gotten the impression, again, reading between the lines, that he necessarily like loves Devin Carter, asking him questions a little bit in Vegas. And, you know, we pointed out how Devin is very much out there for his defense. And I just think there's a lot of offensive questions with Devin still. Like, maybe the evaluation there, somebody that he did not draft, could be a little bit lower. And, you know, we'll see. It's not like Devin's value, I would say, necessarily went up in year 1. It feels like it could honestly only really go up from here, but maybe it could go down. Like, right now, there's still a what if, I guess. So, yeah, I mean, I think your logic definitely makes sense. You want Russ the same way that we've had the argument of, is Russ taking minutes from these guys, or is he helping with a veteran leadership, you know, and it goes both ways. He definitely would help Devin. But I don't know, like the Malik thing, I guess to your point here, it almost feels like Russ is supposed to take that Malik role in a way, you know, of that backup point guard energy guy.
And it started with Mark Stein on Monday, right? Where we read his piece and them saying they were looking for different avenues, and Malik has been a model citizen and he loves the city of Sacramento. All of that is great, right? But when it comes to keeping him and Russell Westbrook, that doesn't make a ton of sense. And I understand what you're saying. Look, the thing is, Devin Carter, Keon Ellis, Nick Clifford, you're not going to have all 3 of those guys on your team. You're just not. And I don't think that you should. It's more so losing Devin for Russell Westbrook that doesn't make a ton of sense to me. No,
I agree. You want to hear my hot take here? Is, of all the guards, they probably should be also taking calls on Keon. I don't think that the team is in a position where Keon, like,
you know, I got in trouble for this about a month ago.
You get in trouble for a lot of things,
that's
man.
Also
I can't
true.
keep up.
That's also true.
Be careful, Brenden.
I just think that, listen,
Be
I love
very
Keon.
careful with
I love
what you're
Keon.
about to say.
I swear I was one of the first on the Keon fan club. All right. I'll give credit to my guys, Drew and Skylar out there, but I swear that I was right there, one of the first on the fan club. And I just think that when you look at the current iteration of the team, Keon is a very good player that helps winning teams, right? I don't think he's raising your ceiling very much necessarily. Sorry, raising your floor very much, but he's more of a ceiling raiser. I think a high-end championship caliber team could look at him and be like, hey, we really like that guy. And he just may be the guy that of all that we're talking about, you might get the most value for Keon. If there is your Josh Giddey for Alex Caruso deal, I just think the Kings are in a spot where, like, hey, if you can get younger talent with more upside, which kind of is Jonathan Kuminga, but not really where I was planning on going with that. But I mean, I just think that it should be a conversation that they should be exploring it.
I don't know what happened when you were stuck in traffic today, but
yeah, man, the 50, it's all the time.
This is exactly what got me into trouble.
You're welcome.
This is exactly what got me into trouble because it makes sense. It makes sense. Keon Ellis is a guy that is perfect for a team that is ready to win.
Right. His next extension that everybody's like he needs to get, which I agree, is going to be what, 3-4 years, right? Mm-hmm. Are the Kings competing in the next 3-4 years?
Brenden.
Or are we just going to have the conversation again about Keon?
I got killed.
At some point.
I got killed.
I guess my counterpoint, Brenden, is that question relevant to signing him to an extension?
I think that it could be, I'm not saying they need to do it right now. They could do it prior to the extension where Keon, I mean, at that point, Keon would have a little bit more control in trade conversations, right? Getting to say, like, telling those teams that are inquiring, I will or won't sign here. But I think my point stands whether he has the extension or not.
Okay. Yeah.
And especially if he does not sign an extension, then you kind of have to move him.
Could that be part of the reason? Do you think it was all connected to Dennis Schroeder, why they picked up his option? Just real quick before I say what I was going to say.
No, not necessarily. I don't have the most clarity on it, but I also think that it's just one of those scenarios where, like, I know Keon fired his agent because he didn't feel like that was a great deal for himself, but he did sign that. And, like, if you can have that guy playing for $2.something million, it's pretty beneficial to the team.
And when did Keon fire his agent?
I believe that was this offseason, or it may have been in the middle of last year, but it was within the last.
We talked about it when it happened.
As long as he doesn't go to Clutch.
No.
Because
he already went somewhere, and I'm forgetting where it is. But he was with a very small. Keon was his previous agent's biggest client.
Yeah, he had to. You level up.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Okay, he's with the big boys now.
Exactly.
I can't believe you went there, Brenden. And this was unprompted.
It was very much unprompted. And I'm not getting on a soapbox saying they should trade Keon Ellis. Yeah. I am saying that they should take calls.
This is
for sure.
This is the same thing as you were wearing that incredibly random.
I know you love this
burgundy
red hat.
A's hat that I don't know. As a baseball guy, I hate the hats that don't have the team colors, but I digress. This is the same thing that I said with and when I initially said it, it was about Malik Monk being a luxury that the Kings can't afford to have right now if they can get value back, and doesn't seem like they're getting crazy value, but it's the same thing I said about Malik Monk. And I compared Malik Monk to Mason Miller. And people got on me about that comparison. The A's stink. They need more pitching. If they're able to get starting pitching for a closer when you don't have a lot of opportunities to close because you stink, that's just how it goes. Keon Ellis is a really good player. Unless you think there is some ceiling out there, which I don't know how the brother's going to get to the ceiling on this team with 12 guards. But if you think there is an untapped ceiling where he's going to be one of those dudes for you in the future, cool. But his trajectory is a 3-and-D guy that could really help a contending team right now. Unfortunately, that's not where the A's are at. That's not where the Kings are at. It has nothing to do with how I feel about Keon. And it's incredible to me, and this is mostly Kings Twitter, it's incredible to me that they either just don't want to hear it because they like Keon and it's a great story and he's a found money player of the century, or they just don't understand it. It's very clear to me. This has nothing to do with Keon. This is where the team is at. You need talent. And the crazy part is, Brenden, if you really, and nobody's saying, that these guys were untouchable, but, no, for commit. Oh, no, you can't do that. Oh, no, you can't do that. You can say the same thing about Keegan.
I was going to go there. I was going to go there. There are no untouchables on this team, and it's not even really close. You know,
there's the same thing about Keegan.
There's absolutely no untouchables on this team. And that's not even going, you know, the full extreme. Oh, well, there's only really like 5 untouchable guys in the NBA. Luka just got traded. No, even if you go a little more like broad with the untouchable term, there's nobody on this Kings roster. The closest guy is probably Keegan. No, but he wasn't a Scott Perry guy.
But that's what I got cooked because I said, so you're telling me that the 6th man on a team projected to win 35 games is untouchable? All right, bro.
Yeah, I mean, again, okay, so the Kuminga conversation, I think, is one thing, right?
Yeah,
and that's where that came in a little bit.
I asked for that.
But yeah, I mean, certainly not untouchable. And again, I'm not saying it should be open market. Hey, best deal we are selling Keon for. You know, it should just be listening to offers is all I'm saying. And I think you should be doing that about absolutely everyone, honestly, Keegan Murray included. And that's who you're most inclined to hold on to. I think that you should be inclined to hold on to Keon, but you should listen to these conversations because the reality is they're a team right now where we have no clue who's going to be on this roster in 3 years. There's nobody I can confidently tell you is going to be on this team in 3 years. Keegan is probably who I feel the best, right? After that, I don't know, Nick Clifford,
well, Maxime will be a top 4 in the league.
Yeah, so. Obviously. He'll be Laurie Markkinen 2.0 by then.
Chasing a bag.
Yeah, of course. Daquan Plowder is going to be taking over the league by then.
Love Daquan. Shout out Philly.
But when that's your reality, I think you need to be trying to get as much young potential talent as you can. You don't have a number 1 on your team. And that is the hardest part of the roster building process that you need to figure out. So in the meantime, I'm shopping everything. That's
it. When we return, we'll ask Brenden the question we asked all of you yesterday. What would Brenden do if he woke up today and he was Scott Perry? Allen Stiles, Sactown Sports.
Sacramento weather.